Parfait, boys, parfait. First bites. First bites of the parfait, for those of you who do not have it yet. What's the name of your podcast again?
Gale Force Winds.
Gale Force Winds.
Winds without a
Jerry, right?
Jerry.
Jerry's going to be going around and putting this camera in your face and asking you personal questions later. So please just be very transparent. First taste of the parfait, ladies and gentlemen. That's good. That's really nice. You can't get cake, but we got partridge berries. And that's what matters. That makes us unique in Newfoundland and Labrador culture, right? Partridge berries? You don't have them anywhere else. They do. They call them lingonberries. IKEA grows them. Right? And also turnip. Don't get me started on turnip, because I just did a show in a town in northern Ontario, and they have a rutabaga festival. And I swear to God, I almost came to a full-on fist fight with an old lady talking about what a rutabaga was versus a turnip. Do you guys know the difference? Minister, do you know the difference? You're in industry, I know, but you should know these things when you're traveling internationally. About what the difference is. Who here knows what the difference is between a turnip and a rutabaga? White and yellow. Now, also size matters too, apparently, because I grew up with Nan's turnips, the big ones, the yellow. But that's a rutabaga. See, that's a rutabaga. Again, knife fight with an old lady in Ontario would have solved it all. Let's give a big round of applause one more time for our servers working so hard. Man, it's great when we get together and, we can have these amazing conversations about what's going on with our province and the future of our province, and some people we haven't, been together with for a long time, and we've had great conversations. I actually was talking to the minister and this beautiful table, about going up north, up to Labrador. I was up there for a trip with Nathan Obed, who how many people here know Nathan? How does he say it? Nathan. It's Nathan. I'm calling him Nathan. Like an arsehole, and but I could take him. He's skinny. He's kind of skinny. He's squirrely though. He'd be a good grappler. He's more like a Hoist Gracie kind of grappler, an Inuit Hoist Gracie. Is it safe to say, or was I just racist? I can't remember. I knows him. You can call him. Get him on the phone. I call him. But he's an incredible man. And I did this trip. We did from Nain to Qikiqtaaluk, and I was working for, it was this ship called the Canada C3, and it was a beautiful, beautiful Canada 150 project, and we went from Nain to Qikiqtaaluk, and I was getting on, and everybody was like, oh my God, that's Nathan Obed, and you're going to be in the same bunk with him. And I was like, oh, that's some sweet. They put the young Inuit fella with the CBC guy to make him feel really good, you know what I mean? As it turns out, I was with a Jedi. Like, this guy is like, I call him Nanook Skywalker, and I gave him a t-shirt and everything. He liked it. But it was really an incredible experience being up there. And so there's nice things like that, and I'm getting the lowdown on what's going on. With Trudeau, I'm sorry, I can't believe the turn in the tide. Like, wasn't he like everybody's favorite action figure for so long? And now it's even like the Liberals in this province have got to go, no, we don't know him. We knows him, like, Seamus is good buddy with him, but we don't really hang out or nothing like that. You mean the fella that's on the news all the time, desperately sweating, trying to impress people? Oh, he's just trying too hard. Like, if you talk to him, just tell him to calm down a little bit. Like, He's always out there with his speeches, and he's so dramatic, trying to just impress everybody, isn't he? Right? Like, I mean, he just wants to be everybody's best friend. Like, I figure, like, Justin Trudeau would be that guy at those house parties in high school, you know, where all the cool kids would be in a bedroom where all the coats are on the bed, and maybe have a little hit of hash or something like that, you know. Come on, boys. You guys know black hash back in the day in rural Newfoundland was very popular. Hot knives. What the hell's that? That freaked me out when I was a kid. I was a youngster and I went to a house party. You want to do hot knives? That does not sound appealing. So what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, I'm just taking this old broken stove and I'm heating it up as hot as I can. And I'm taking the old metal knife and putting it on, making it go red color. And then I'm going to put it close to my face and inhale. That's not exciting. I don't care. I'd rather go play spin the bottle in the corner with some girl. Anyway. But I pictured Justin in there with like all the cool kids talking about the cool things they're doing. Yeah, man, I rode my BMX and I jumped off the jump, man. I fell down, I cut myself, and it didn't matter. I just got up and I stitched it up myself. I stitched it all up myself. I fixed it. And then another guy was like, oh, yeah, man, well, I was talking to this guy the other day, right? And he was hitting on my girlfriend. And you know what I did? I didn't like it, so I went and I cut his tires. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then Justin would swoop in because he knew everybody was cool in the room. He's like, oh, hey, guys. What's up, guys? Ooh, what's that sweet smell? You guys are doing what? What are you going to do with that knife? Like, that's interesting. But anyway, I got a crazy story, too. I was at Sobeys the other day. Wait, it gets worse. It gets worse. And I was going through the frozen food section, and honest to God, it was so cold there, right? And I saw this lady. Wait, guys, wait, come back, wait, listen. You're gonna friggin' die when you hear this, right? And I went, and there was an old lady, and she was walking down the aisle, and she wasn't, like, her t-shirt was, like, almost, like, you could almost see through it. And it was so cold, her nips were poking out. Right, guys? Where you going? Whatever, loser. And they leave. It's like, Justin, you're trying too hard to impress. Like, he went to India. Do you guys remember he went to India? Do you remember this, minister? He went to India and he dressed up like Aladdin. Like, who's he? Like, you don't do that. Like, Justin Trudeau, why are you trying so hard to fit in? He went to India because he's a theater teacher, that's why. And he was trying to be more Indian in India than Indian people. I see one brown guy way over there. Now, you can back me up on this brown guy. There's only one here. Brother, nice to see you, man. Very good. It's very good to see you. I'm very happy that you made it to Newfoundland and Labrador. Did you see the commercial and that's why you came? Because you saw the whales jumping out of the water onto the iceberg and then slipping down the iceberg and landing on your front porch where you can smoke a joint with the whale. Or black hash, whatever you do. And you're like, here you go, whale. And the whale takes it. He's like, that's my blowhole, buddy. But he went to India and he dressed up like Aladdin. He put on the friggin' turban with the golden jewel on the front and the feather going back, and he had the genie pants on and the curly Q shoes, and they brought him in on a floating carpet. It's like, come on, he hired sock puppets and he played a little horn. He was like, nee, Justin. And then at the end of his speech, did you hear he did? He went, namaste. And then he did the head wobble. He's like, Justin, you can't do the head wobble, man. Only Indian people know how to do the head wobble. That's like a very specific Indian non-verbal way of communicating. And Justin Trudeau did the head, namaste. No, you can't do that, man. You got to keep it cool. But Justin, he just wants to be, he loved, and I love him. Like, it's not about him as a person. He's a very nice guy. But it has gotten a little crazy. It's gotten a little crazy. Like, there was this thing recently, I don't know if you saw, that person, they were caught on tape. They were threatening to kill the prime minister, and now they went to jail. Did you hear about this? This actually happened out west. They threatened to kill the prime minister. I mean, it's gotten that bad, right? Like, people don't like Justin Trudeau, but that's a bit much. Like, that's America kind of vibes. You know what I mean? And when I looked it up, I was like, wait a minute. So this must be some hardcore right-wing, underground militia group that is plotting something terrible on the dark web. No, this was a group of quilters, old ladies in Saskatchewan, having an online chat. And I mean, sure, they were hard-looking quilters, I'm not going to lie. They're drinking out of big yellow cups with old Captain Morgan and Pepsi in it. Hey, Dwight, that's a good drink. But man, it's gotten a bit much. It's gotten too hard. But I just think we need to calm down. If you don't like them, vote them out. Don't be murdering them. You know what I mean? Like, just cool your jets. But I think secretly Justin wants to be Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's a bad boy, and he's on TV today. I don't know if you knew that. He's going to be the president again. Do you guys know that? He's definitely going to be president. He's unstoppable. This guy is I can't believe it. Listen, I'm not vouching for him. I'm just saying he's going to win, because he's like a superhero. He's some weird superhero. The worse he gets, the more things this guy is facing like 89 indictments, up to 782 years in prison. And he's still going to win. And even if he does go to jail, he's going to be running the country from cell block D, for sure. He and his first lady, Rudy Giuliani. You're going to see it. He can't be beat. You cannot kill him. You cannot stop him. I don't mean physically. I mean even physically. I bet you can't. Because when he's in jail, somebody's going to find him in the courtyard. You know what I mean? You'll be like, hey, Donnie, I saw what you said about my people, let's say. Stab, stab, stab. But of course, Donnie's just going to be like, that's okay. Come on, give it to me, Ricardo. I'm rubber, you're glue. Right? And when he's getting stabbed, he's not going to have blood coming out. It's going to be nacho cheese everywhere. It's Donald Trump, man. Oh, it's quite exciting time. It's an exciting time in politics. It's exciting. But guys, we have a few more speakers. Let's get some of these speakers up here. And I'm really excited to be sharing the table with an amazing group of important people that are here as a part of this. But your first speaker coming to the stage right now, I'm really excited to introduce. We were just chatting. You came all the way from Calgary. You've been in Calgary for a little while?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's a nice place. I'm going out there myself. I love Alberta. Alberta's the second Newfoundland. There's a lot of Newfoundlanders out there, isn't there? A lot of Newfoundlanders. And a lot of people out in Alberta. I noticed when I was just there, I was actually working in Fort Mac. I finally got my job in Fort Mac as a young Newfoundlander. I feel like it was my birthright. And I did. I was doing 6 on, 6 off. And I was working up in CNRL. I swear to God, they had me going and doing stand-up comedy up there. And but one of my favorite jokes, before I bring up Randy, is basically... my favorite jokes of all time is, you know how Newfoundlanders going up to Alberta, people are pissed off. Albertans were not happy at all. And they were like, you know what, we got to do something. We got to stop these Newfoundlanders from coming up here, stealing our jobs. They were calling radio shows. People were like, hey, man, we got to do something. We got to stop these Newfies, as they said. I don't support the word necessarily. But they were like, we got to stop these Newfies from coming up here and taking our jobs. And then another guy called in and he was like, hey, you know what we should do? You know what we should do? We should do what Trump is doing. And we should build a wall around Alberta and keep all the Newfoundlanders from coming up here and stealing our jobs, right? And then the next guy called up and he was like, hey, boys, how you doing? This is Reg calling from Newfoundland. When do you want us to come up there and start working on that wall? That's a good joke. It's a good joke. All right. Right now, we're going to bring Robin Fournier, president of Raleigh Drilling Services. Since the incorporation or the inception of Central Minex, Raleigh Drilling Services and its president, Robin Fournier, have been amazing supporters of the event. Robin's been working in the drilling industry for more than 30 years, focused primarily on supporting and developing junior mining companies operating in Atlantic Canada. Give it up for Robin Fournier, everybody.
Holy smokes. I have a different writer than Sean does, I can tell you that. You're great. You're a funny guy. That's really good. Listen, thank you guys. Thank you all so much for coming. Thanks for the introduction, Sean. That's great. And welcome, everyone. Welcome, Minister Parsons. Minister Small, you're on your way out the door. I caught you on the way to the bathroom. There you go. All right. I certainly appreciate it, sir. Thank you. All right. Certainly, Mayor, Jennifer, Tom, thank you guys so much for coming and being here for this important event here. And of course, all the attendees for this. I know a lot of you guys were probably at the cocktail reception last night, and you're thinking, oh, geez, great. Not this guy again, right? So anyway, I'm going to do my best not to repeat myself. Not terrible anyway. But if you noticed Raleigh Drilling Services logos all over the place, this week, there's a couple of reasons for that. First, of course, because Raleigh Drilling, just like everyone else in this room, understands the trajectory of the mining industry here in central Newfoundland. Raleigh, we're proud to be the drilling services contractor for the Newfound Group over here. The promise and the potential that they're showing right now is just incredible, and it just keeps getting more and more exciting as certainly as recent news releases have shown. So congratulations, guys! It's just fantastic for you. We're happy for you. It's great. Also seeing fresh presence here from the Calibre team. Really excited to see you guys. New company bringing new operating expertise and investment to bring the Valentine mine to fruition. That's a really exciting thing here for Central Newfoundland. Fantastic. Congratulations, guys. It's great. And while here, I learned a little bit more about Sockman. I learned more about exploits and what they're doing in the area. They're so busy, and they're just these guys are, there's no question in my mind, these guys will be emerging guys in the market as well. So we're really excited about all these folks showing up and doing so much work around here. I want to thank the executives for coming in from Canada, from all across Canada, who want to be here for Central Newfoundland because they see the great opportunity here. And, it's exciting. It's very exciting. But the second reason that we're here as such a big sponsor of this show is a core belief that we have at Raleigh. And that's the responsibility we have as industry players to help the collective realize the potential of the industry, to help take the opportunity here and turn it into decades of benefit for the entire area. Part of that is operating safely and in an environmentally responsible manner, operating efficiently with excellence and an openness to innovation. But beyond the operations, we need to support the community. We need to support the industry. We need to contribute to the growth. And supporting the community groups like local sports, Gander Grow Co. and Hope Air is really important to Raleigh Drilling. And so it also is supporting the growth of the sector here in central Newfoundland. We really feel that we have a responsibility to contribute to that, which is why we're pleased to be supporting the great work of the Chamber and to the town and all the work that you guys have been doing here to pull this stuff together. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate you guys. So we're going to keep investing in the community and the industry. And when I say that, I mean we as Raleigh, and also I assume we as a group. And I hope the others here also plan to do the same, because I know I'm excited about the potential of what we can achieve together. So if you'll forgive me, I am going to repeat one thing that I did talk about last night, and you're going to hear me say it over, and you're going to hear me say it over and over again in the years ahead, because I'm more impressed by it every single day. Look, I've worked in the mining industry, as Sean pointed out, for about 30 years. I've worked around the world, and I've seen a lot of different districts, and as many people in this room have. And something about this area that's so refreshing, that was so refreshing when we got into Newfoundland, is again the quality of the labor force. The men and women and their genuine commitment here. our core beliefs in the environment and the safety culture and frankly their work ethic and their loyalty to the company. It's incredible. It really is, guys. And I mean, I've got some of my guys here tonight, and I really believe that's you guys are. I can't tell you. I can't be more proud of you guys and what you do. Really. So I'm pretty proud to say right now at this point, about 95% of our team is Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. Currently, we have about 70 people, and the workforce has peaked up to about 115. And frankly, I've just never seen a workforce like this, the one that we have here, and we're very proud and very grateful for it. I like to think that the way our company hires and trains, and how we treat our people with respect and contributes to all that. And I'd love to take credit for it all, but the fact is that we know it's a reflection of the people themselves, their experience, and the culture in the communities here that they come from. So. Anyway, before I finish up, I'd just like to congratulate the Chamber and the town one more time, the participants for this successful event. It's been you can just feel the excitement in the air. It's great. And I know it's been very valuable for our company, and I've heard many others here in this room today say the same. So thank you very much. We're excited to be here. We'll be excited to be here next year, and for everything to come here in the future for mining here in central Newfoundland. Thank you, guys.
So, Robin Fournier, come on, Robin Fournier. Wow. So you guys do all kinds of stuff. Robin, you do lots of stuff. Like you do, seen the picture, and it says there you do drilling, and you got a barge. I got a cabin. I needs water, and we can't find any water. Like there's too dry up. It dries up too early in the spring, and I can't really get it. Like build a dam or something like that. Like what would it take? Maybe we can do a partnership with you, me, and the Newfound Gold people, because they just look cool people. And maybe you come out, you do a well for me, and maybe bring that barge, and maybe help me build a wharf. Can we do it? We're signing a deal right now, no pressure. I'm just saying. Well, yes, no, I'll hit you up after. I'll give you my number. Call me up. All right, you guys. Well, listen, one of the themes that seems to be prevalent at this particular conference is the relationship with Indigenous peoples, and I think that's something that, after my experience with Natan and really having a deeper understanding of that relationship in Newfoundland and Labrador, where when I grew up, I did not understand it. And, but, over the years and through that trip, the idea of reconciliation and kind of mending that relationship, I think is really, really important. And it's good to hear that you guys are working hard towards that, which leads us to our next speaker, which I'm really excited to introduce, Chief Jenny Brake from now, boys, we got to get it right. We got to have it out right now.
Do it.
Kalipu, because I've heard people on BLCM open line going, to Kalipu, Cali. Is it Cali? Oh, see? Boys, I didn't even know about the B. Say it with me one more time. Hollybu Nation. Hollybu. There we go. Let's give it up for Chief Jenny Brake from the Hollybu Nation. Hollybu. Okay. That's good to know.
I'm really glad we cleared that up. That tends to be a thorn in my side. When anybody comes in to speak to us, I'll often take industry folks aside and go, "Now, boys, if you butchers the name, you're shit out of luck here today." So I'll even write it on the card. I'll put a little H above the Q, a little B above the P. Got it? Okay. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here today. This is my second time at Minex. I was here last year with Trades NL Indigenous Office, who I worked with and proudly still support in every which way I can. Hey folks, I'll even give them my sister. How good is that now? Boys, I gotta leave you. I'm gonna leave you with her. Next best thing to the chief is her sister, I suppose, eh? So yeah, little info about me. I am the acting chief of Hollywood First Nation. I was put in this role back in December. What is it someone said the other day? Do you still feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose? I'm like, oh my God, yes. Because that is quite, it's a pivotal time to come into this industry because it's everywhere. It's mining one day, it's windmills the next. I'm trying to save the seals. Jesus, boys, hold on. I got so much on to go. It's a lot, right? It's environmental stewardship, responsible economic growth, and we're all over the place. We do a lot of things. I'm a welder by trade. And so, having traditional knowledge, but practical knowledge around industry is really it's been a benefit to me in the work that we do because I get it. I get it like boots to ground, but I also get it like this is sacred ground. So we're going to be very careful about what we do. A little extra about me, I embarrassingly, I would raise my hand at lunch for, the food. I can put darts in a cat. I can skin a bear, but I can't eat pork and potatoes. So I wasn't trying to be picky. I was just trying to stay alive to talk to you later today. And the only other person I know who's allergic to potatoes is Chief Musel Joe, who's been the most incredible mentor to me. And so I think it's just a thing that chiefs have to do. We stay away from potatoes. I don't know. But speaking of Chief Musel Joe, he's been a mentor to me, and the relationship that we have with Meow Boogek, for everyone wants it, Meow Boogek. Meow Boogek. There you got it. Yabagak First Nation is that we work together. We're one of 2 federally recognized Indian Act bands on the island, Mi'kmaq bands on the island. And we are working together as much as we can to ensure that these projects go ahead for you folks in responsible, effective. We're just honoring Mother Earth here, but we want to make shit happen, everybody wants the economic growth. Everyone wants their children to be home and to working. I want my child to come home. I've got a little brown beige boy just like you, Sean. Yes. We call them a double Indian. And hard as the hardest worker you'll ever meet. And he will be home to work if Mother can help it. So, let's all do our part. I appreciate all the outreach we've had this week. There's been some incredible conversations. We've got some amazing Indigenous-led companies here. And I'm so proud. Hearing their success stories feels like, I'm like, oh, us. Look at us doing things. Because, like my good friend Stanley Oliver says, he and I have had so many conversations around how, we're trying to help you help yourself, and it's like, oh yes, green energy and the environment. And everybody's talking about it like it's a new thing. Jesus, we've been at this forever. Let us help you. Nothing about us without us. So when you're having these conversations and when you're doing your work for your industries, we don't want to be a checkbox. We want to be a partner. And we want to come to your tables and we want to give you our advice and our traditional knowledge and help you get things done right the first time. Save you a bit of money even. Who knows? We got some access to funding. I know you know that. So anyways, lovely to be here. Thank you so much for the beautiful meal that came after the 3 attempts to give me pork and potatoes. Cheers to the staff for that. And I also want to say, being here in central Newfoundland you can feel it. For me as an Indigenous person, you can feel the sacred land that exists here, the rich history of the Mi'kmaq and Beothuk. And we didn't come here from Nova Scotia to kill them, contrary to, the history books that we're trying to burn and get rid of. But, it's a very, you can feel it. So, when you go outside and you look around, just remember who was here a long time ago and think about that when you put your shovels in the ground and, reach out to us because we want to help you grow, but we want to help us sustain. So thank you, Walalan.
Yes. Chief Jenny Bragg, everybody, one more time. Awesome. Beige power. Oh, buddy, I don't want to be biased, but I think when it comes to different Indigenous groups around the world, I think we can clearly say that the Qalipu Nation is the most hilarious. I mean, without a doubt, the funniest First Nation of all. Oh, yes. You are like super Newfoundlander. I mean, that's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to our next speaker right now. It's an honor to be sitting next to the minister, Minister Parsons. Very cool. We had a nice chat about what's on the go right now. It sounds like there's so many incredible things popping in industry, at least. I hear fishing is having some tough times, but not the industry, buddy, which is great. Some groups are getting the shit kicked out of them, from what I've heard, but not this next feller. We're really excited. As Minister of Industry, Energy and Technology, the Honorable Andrew Parsons is passionate about accelerating growth, developing a thriving startup ecosystem, and helping set Newfoundland and Labrador up for success for years to come by promoting and showcasing the province's energy and technology sectors to the world. Please give it up for Andrew Parsons, Minister.
Well, thank you, Sean, for taking it easy on me. I appreciate that. It's funny, you know, we just opened a $1.6 billion renewable diesel facility yesterday. Huge news. And I just got introduced by Sean Majumder, and this day is way bigger than that day. I gotta tell you, this is way more awesome. And I gotta tell you, I was thinking I got up and drove here this morning, and I was thinking all the way, I was like, Jesus, you know, Sean Majumder's there, that, you know, gonna get introduced. It's a really tough act to follow, and I didn't realize that Chief Brake was gonna bring the house down. Like, I think it may be the first time I've had a chance to hear her speak, and holy moly. So I learned a thing a long time ago. I've been in politics a long time, and I learned, like, when there's talent, you just don't try to keep up with that. I'm going to stay in my lane, and I'm just going to talk about the few things that I know. Now, I will say, anybody that's ever heard me speak, just two things. One, they always give me a speech in this case, and they always give me like a keynote speech. There's like 20 pages in here, and I've got like 10 minutes, so I'm not going to do that. The second part is I hate reading speeches anyway, so I'm going to look once in a while at this, because there's a few things that I do want to mention. But I just want to lead off with the fact that I'm just happy to be here. It is hard to believe that it has been 1 year since we were here at the last MineX. It is an amazing, amazing conference. And the first thing I want to do is give a shout out to everybody that helped to organize, to put this together. Thank you for taking the time to do that. These things don't just happen. And I know there's someone from my department, Leah, that is a part of the organizing committee. So thank you for representing the department on that. I think getting on the ground, like, you can read all the briefing notes you want, you can, you know, have all the meetings you want, but getting on the ground and seeing it is truly believing. And coming out here, it is an amazing, amazing time right now. It was busy last year, it's busy this year, it's going to continue to be busy. I think the two main things that I have to do here today, one is I just want to talk a little bit about what is going on. And I think these companies can probably do it better themselves. But when I look at Central, when I look at what Maritime is doing out there, when I see the Firefly, just last year I had to go to Bayvert and talk about, I literally had to speak at their Chamber of Commerce AGM on the day the mine shut down. And that was just like walking into, you know, it was, you couldn't find a worse time to go in and do a speech on the day everything shuts down, everybody's mad at you, even though I didn't shut it down. But the fact that Firefly's there taking over. And then, and you look at what Calibre, you know, Marathon was doing, Calibre's here now. That is a massive, massive endeavor. I think about Newfound, I think about exploits. I mean, Newfound had some big news this week with an acquisition there. And then you look at just everything else, and the thing that I have a difficult time explaining, I don't come from a mining background, and when I got in, what I didn't realize, especially till you come to an event like this and trying to explain to people, it's not just the mining companies, it's the supply and service side and all the services, all the ancillary that comes with it. And that's why we support mining. And, you know, I'm lucky, I get to represent industry. And I love when people get on, you know, open line around the news and they talk about, you know, development and like it's a bad thing. And I tell you what I'd like to do every time is I remind people that it's this development that's going on here, that is development of our resources, that is paying for our education, it's paying for our healthcare, it's paying for all the services that we've come to expect in this province and rely on, it's done from resource development. It's done by people in this room. And that is something I always remember. But it is also the supply and service side and these women and men that are making sure that the work happens. So again, to all the companies that are doing it and all the prospectors, again, talking to people that have been out here on these grounds for years and years, has truly been a learning experience. One thing I want to talk about is just over the last year, I've had the opportunity, I think my biggest job is to go around and tell people about Newfoundland and Labrador. I think sometimes we think that we're a well-known entity, and certainly we've had people that have made it on an international stage. We've had companies that have done it on an international stage, but we're not actually that well-known on a global basis about the province. And so I talk about why would you go to Newfoundland and Labrador? Well, I talk about the fact that, you look at the people first, you look at the workforce here. We have workers that are in demand elsewhere. When we talk about drilling and people in the States talking about how we want Newfoundland and Labrador drillers to go down there and do the work. And we're like, well, we don't have enough of them because we got too much work going on here. When we talk about the resources that we have, the actual geology that we have, when we talk about all the resources that we have, I mean, it's hard to believe that we're actually moving into wind production here. I mean, if you told me 10 years ago that we were going to be making money off wind in this province, it would have blown my mind. And my big thing now is if we can find the technology to monetize fog, we have got it made. We're gonna be the friggin' Saudis of the. It's gonna be awesome. So there's that. But I talk about, we're lucky in this country, and we like to talk about, but we have a pretty good country and province to do business in. We have a stable regulatory regime. I don't like to talk about it too much because I like my job, but in some countries that you go to, if there's a change in regime, you don't know what's going to happen. You might have your production nationalized. You might have it taken away from you. If I'm gone tomorrow, I will be replaced. The mindset stays the same. And that's important when you're talking to foreign investment. They want to know that their money, that their investment is safe. And I say that here. We have a stable, safe, responsive, business-friendly government. But at the same time, one that takes our environmental concerns seriously. I've got young kids. I don't want to leave behind a mess that they're going to deal with 50 years from now. And it's about finding that balance between development and at the same time making sure that we protect and conserve the beauty that we have here. I look at the indigenous relationships that we have here, which is a top issue when you're talking to people throughout the world, whether it's governments, investors, you name it. And they ask how our relationships, and ours, I say, pretty friggin' good. I mean, the relationships we have with Halibu, I got that right, see, only first try. But with all of our indigenous leaders here is strong. We value it. And in fact, when people come, a lot of times, in fact, I had a company come once, a very well-known, high-end international company that wanted to talk about Labrador. And I said, well, if you haven't talked to the indigenous leaders of Labrador, you may as well go start with them first before you come to me, because they are our partners in how we move forward. But here's the good thing. So I'm talking about that. I go around and talk about the province. But just this year, you see a little change. I'm in London. I sit down with the minister from Saudi Arabia, and the first word out of his mouth was Labrador. Then I go to Japan, and they slide across our critical minerals plan to us. I'm up in Toronto at PDAC, and I got to tell you, Central runs PDAC. I mean, Central runs PDAC. Anybody that was here, that was up there. I mean, the Newfoundland and Labrador reception is the best place to be. And when you see our representation there, the fact is we are being well known, and we're being well known for all the things that I've described, all the things that you're talking about here. And it gives me such pleasure to be able to see this and recognize it and to be a partner in this. Coming from a justice background, I was used to dealing with adversarial, as in one side versus the other, win versus loss. But in the energy sector, in the mining sector, it's about partnerships. It's about everybody can have a win here. Everybody's going to get something out of this. And that is what makes every day such a good day. So on that note, before I go, I do want to say I get to stand up and talk about the good things that are going on. But I'm cognizant that I don't get to do mine without a lot of people from my department that are actually doing the front line hard work every day. And they've got a booth over there. So what I'm going to do now, because they love this part when I do it, I'm going to ask the IET people to stand up and be recognized. And you also notice that they travel in force, because if somebody wants to kick shit out of me, I got a squad here. But they do an amazing job, whether it's geological survey, when we talk about exploration, all the good things that are happening right now in this province. And we are top 5 ranked globally. Comes down to a lot of the work they do, and it comes down to a lot of the work that's being done by you folks in this room. So what I would say is our doors are always open. We're always easy to access. We want your success. We're going to continue to want that. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. Looking forward to getting to talk to some of you, and looking forward to hearing our guest speaker and letting him get roasted by our MC. Cheers.
Well done, Minister Parsons. Come on, Minister Parsons. That was awesome. And you know, he does make a very good point about how industry feeds things like healthcare. But I got on that. I don't want to diverge too much, but you know, Baver Peninsula, the hospital, we need some doctors. Maybe we should start. I'd say we bring back asbestos. Who's with me? Let's get that mine back up and running, boys, because we need a couple doctors from somewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our keynote speaker. What a great group of speakers this has been, and it's an honor to introduce to you guys right now. We have Mr. Tom Paddon. He is a former president and CEO of Baffin Island Iron Mines Corporation. Currently serves as its non-executive chairman. Baffin Island is developing the Mary River project located on Baffin Island. What? Did I get it right?
Well, you got it right.
Baffin Island, am I saying it right? I want to make sure. Nunavut. Prior to Baffin Island, Tom served as president of Vail, Newfoundland, and Labrador, and general manager of Labrador operations at Voisey's Bay. A lot of young fellas working up there from Burlington now, which is very good. They're very happy about that. Born in Northwest River, Labrador, Tom has played a pivotal role in negotiating and implementing agreements that successfully reconcile the commercial interests of developers with the rights of indigenous peoples, as well as the implementation of strict environmental performance standards in northern regions. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear from Mr. Tom Paddon.
How many Labradorians in the room? Lonely, lonely, lonely. Oh, there we go. Because we got to settle this right now. So in Labrador, we pick berries. And when we pick the blue ones, we call them blueberries. And when we pick the black ones, we call them blackberries. And when we pick the red ones, we call them redberries. I don't know how you crowd wound up with partridge berries for the last time. Every time I hear it, I go, I don't know where that comes from. Anyway, what's this? Oh, here it is. All right. So when I was asked to talk to you about, hang on now. If you can't see the screen, because there's some pretty pictures, if you want to see the screen, you can move now if you want to. If you don't want to, because you don't care, you're not interested, don't bother. But for the people at the end of the room, you can't see nothing, I don't think. So if you want to come on, and the rest of you can just drift off and go to sleep. Okay, so when I was asked to come here and talk about Voisey's Bay, the agreements, how they came to be and what they've meant, my first reaction was, geez, that's old news. Who'd want to hear that? But it was explained to me how bright the future is here and what some of the issues are and what they're going to be. And so I thought that maybe giving some insight into how developers and stakeholders can work together might actually be valuable. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do things wrong, which I have too much experience with, and a little bit about how to do them right. And the talk's sort of mostly aimed at mining companies, exploration companies, but I think all parties can hopefully get something out of it. And right at the beginning, I'll state the obvious. Labrador in the 1990s is not central Newfoundland in the 2020s. So, but maybe some of the lessons apply. So going back, there was a joke in the 1990s that went around after Inco had seemingly fallen into hell on the Voisey's Bay project. Some of you may remember that. They'd paid $4 billion to buy it, and they were getting nowhere in terms of developing it. The Innu were angry with them. The Inuit were angry with them. The provincial government was making demands that the company simply couldn't meet. And essentially, we were pretty sure as Labradorians that we were about to get screwed again by another mega project going on in our backyard, think Churchill Falls. And there was a lot of anger towards Inco, and they were getting nowhere, as I say. So the joke went like this. What do you say if you're the CEO of an exploration company and your chief geologist calls you on the satellite phone one day and from the shack in Labrador and says, we've had a fabulous intersection, the core looks great, and everything's looking fantastic. Your response is, you're fired. Because looking for a deposit in Labrador at the time was good business. But finding one meant that you were going to get consigned to the same hell that Inco was walking around in after spending $4 billion to buy something that they couldn't develop. So it's not really a very good joke, but it seemed funny at the time because it was true back then. And it took a little work to get Inco out of that hell, if you will. So real life can be funny too. And this poor bugger didn't know it, but the joke was on him at the time. In case you don't know, that's me. It was 2011, and I was recruited as Baffinland CEO to build an iron ore mine, a port, and a railway about 1,000 kilometers north of Qikiqtaaluk. And I was really looking forward to the challenge. The budget was $6 billion. The problems were immense, and it was going to be great fun. So why didn't we get to execute that project that I'd been hired for? Well, the price of iron ore dropping from $190 a ton to $37 a ton was definitely a big part of it. And for those of you in or hoping to be in the gold business, what's gold today? Is it around $2,400 an ounce? Right. Well, imagine it dropped to under $500 an ounce pretty quickly. How would you feel? Well, I can tell you how you'd feel. That happened to me, and I remember the feeling distinctly. But I also think that we didn't have the local relationships right. And I actually think that that was a bigger issue. And you got to put that into perspective. Now, the bottom falls out of the market that you're trying to work in. And I think in retrospect, not having the local relationships right was a worse situation for us. I'll talk about that in a little while, but you've got the chairman of Baffinland Iron Mines here, and if you thought you were going to get away without seeing a few pictures of Baffinland, you're not going to. So, because we did get to spend $1 billion to build a great project up in the Arctic, and this is what all the fuss was about. That's Qikiqtaaluk Mountain. It's made out of 67-68% iron ore, and we went into production in 2015, and we've been mining it ever since. If you want to put that in perspective, if you don't know much about iron ore, IOC has been in business for 60 years mining 40% iron ore, and we're pulling it out of the ground at 67-68%. So this is what all the fuss is about. It's a naturally primarily a lump deposit, and basically we're not really a mine, but don't tell our mining department that. They get paid for being a mining department, and they're pretty resentful if I say this, but really we're a quarry. We drill and blast and crush it, and then put it on a ship, and our customers just drop it straight into their into their steel mill, and we actually sell it as a natural pellet. It drives the people who actually have to make pellets crazy when we do this, but works for us. That's the camp at Baffinland, near the mine site. So we house over 1,000 people there, and they're drawn from every province and territory across the country, including this one significantly. There's an airstrip in the background that I'm going to come back to and talk about in a moment, because we have an aircraft, a 737, that flies in there a couple of times a week and does our crew changes. It's a large operation. And we also have a port, Canada's only deep sea port capable of taking a Panamax or a Cape-sized ship, and that's what we use. And you can see our laydown area at the top. There's a Panamax ship that's about 85,000 tons, if you want to imagine how big it is. Got our ship loader, and we've got a workforce down there, and we can store about 45 million liters of fuel there, and it's about 100 kilometers from there to the mine, which is why we want to replace that road with a railway to another site on the south side of Baffin Island, because this area is spectacularly beautiful. It's also environmentally sensitive, and we take the responsibilities that we have to operate there appropriately very, very seriously. But I'll tell you, again, the relationship has not always been easy. And we've worked really hard in the last number of years to get it right and to improve it, and we now have, and we're very proud of it. I think that's our greatest accomplishment. So I'm looking pretty relaxed and happy here. We've just loaded our first ship. It's 2015, and one last thing about Baffinland before I come back to this province is that there are more than 400 Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. Actually, I think now they're all Newfoundlanders except for one Labradorian who's working at the site. Out of a workforce, our total workforce is a little over 2,300. But after Ontario and Nunavut itself, Newfoundland and Labrador is the single greatest source of our workforce. And you might want to bear that in mind, because when mining in central Newfoundland really starts to roll, I'm pretty sure a lot of them are going to decide to drive to work rather than fly through Montreal. And so I think maybe we're training them for you. Okay. You're welcome. But let's come back and talk about Labrador, about Inco's initial short-sightedness, how we overcame it, and what happened when we did. Bear in mind, this is Labrador in the 1990s. It's $1 billion project. The land claims process had been going nowhere for decades. We'd just been through the whole low-level flying mess. Does anybody remember that? And Voisey's was being touted as the most important mineral discovery in Canada in 100 years. So it's not central Newfoundland. There's an awful lot going on here, but the expectations in Labrador back in the 1990s were just inconceivable to imagine. But some of what we've got to say, what I've got to say may be applicable to you. So, by the way, Inco was not the first to take a short-term perspective in Labrador. You'll love this, Minister. In 1924, the Newfoundland government considered selling Labrador to Quebec for $30 million, and then dropped the price to $15 million in 1925, as long as Quebec let them keep on fishing off the coast. My grandfather was up there at the time. Nobody asked him what was going on, but Quebec, of course, thought that they already owned Labrador anyway. So they didn't take the deal. And they decided to leave the final question to the Privy Council in England, which, as we all know, was a mistake on their part. But then again, in 1929, the government of Newfoundland again offered to sell Labrador, this time to the Dominion of Canada, for $110 million. And then they put the price up to $130 million. Not quite sure why they didn't start there. And Canada went, nah, pass. And we got into Canada in the end anyway. But it's just a lesson that people who go into areas that they don't really understand, or they don't really understand the value of, tend to make mistakes with a short-sighted perspective. So, coming back to Inco, this is the exploration camp in 1997. I joined Inco, or as I called it, Voisey's Bay Nickel Company. Voisey's Bay Nickel Company was wholly owned by Inco, same thing, in January of that year as the mill operations coordinator. That's a pretty good title, eh, for a guy who'd never been in mining before. And it took me a little while to realize that we didn't have a mill, we weren't in operations, and I wasn't coordinating anything. Seriously. And they'd hired me to help them solve the problems that were becoming more and more apparent in Labrador, and that they clearly were not interested in any advice I had to give, and totally ignored me. At the time, Inco envisioned a 7-year mine life, what Brian Tobin then called the scoop and run. And the company was working to push the environmental assessment process along quickly. But that winter, the federal government, the provincial government, the Innu and the Inuit all agreed on an environmental impact assessment process. But at the same time, Inco was relying on provincial permits, which had been legally issued, to push along substantial work at site. And that was a mistake. The Innu and the Inuit saw it as the early start of actually building the project before an environmental assessment had been done, and they did not react well. No prizes for figuring out what this little fellow is shouting. And I know the guy who used to make up their T-shirts. And this says, undermining the Innu at Voisey's Bay. Inco undermining the Innu at Voisey's Bay. It's a pretty good line when you think about it. So what happened was that in July of 97, 300 Innu and Inuit occupied the site. And pretty soon afterwards, 75 armed response RCMP officers were flown into the site as well. It was a terrible situation. And eventually things wind up in court. Initially, Inco wins. It gets appealed to the Supreme Court, and Inco loses. And meanwhile, the environmental assessment work and the public hearings are going on with this in the background. The panel issues its final report in 1999, following like 2 years of public thrashing of the company. But of course, at that point, negotiations with the Innu, the Inuit, and the province broke off. Everyone was laid off who worked for Voisey's Bay Nickel Company, except for 5 people. The president, the vice president, one administrative assistant who worked with them, and 2 people in Labrador. And luckily, I was one of the people in Labrador who didn't lose their job that day. So, why did they keep 2 people in Labrador on? Because the new president of Inco, a man named Scott Hand, had realized that they'd made a mistake. They had failed to build respectful relationships with local stakeholders, and over the next year or 2, that's what we were tasked to do, and that's what we did. And in late 2000, Inco, Voisey's Bay Nickel Company, the LIA, and the Innu Nation quietly restarted negotiations to conclude impact and benefit agreements. We didn't tell anybody. People asked us, "Are you in negotiations?" And we said, "Not really, not officially." And we would meet at these types of events. We would go to trade shows in Toronto, and I'm not telling you secrets now, it's a long time ago, and there'd be a trade show going on or a conference going on, and we'd be staying in the same hotel, and we'd wind up talking to each other. And that's how it began. At the same time, we restarted negotiations to reach a deal with the province. And in 2002, the deal was signed with the province in June. And in August, the IBAs were signed with the Innu and the Inuit, a separate IBA with each. Project construction started right away. And we produced first ore in 2005. But what allowed for that was not the paper that we had negotiated, the agreements we had negotiated. It was a mutual understanding of each other's needs and acting on that. We and the stakeholders came up with all kinds of ideas to continue to build relationships and strengthen relationships. This is one of my favorites. We took a group of local people, we took groups of local people. In this case, these are the Innu elders. Into the site on a regular basis so they could see, because it's a remote site at Voisey's Bay, so that they could see for themselves what we were doing, the care we were taking of the land and the water. They could also see their kids and grandkids working on the site and have a meal with them in our cafeteria, hear what they liked about their jobs. And when the elders went home, it was them who talked about us rather than some company employee going into the community and holding a meeting and giving a progress report and saying how wonderful everything was. The elders had far more credibility than we could ever hope to achieve. That built trust and understanding. And as far as I know, these visits are still going on 20 years later. This is our first blast in ore in 2015, and that's the dark material. In the back there, the light smoke, for those of you in the blasting business, that's some non-mineralized boulders that we needed to get rid of, so we loaded them up too, but it made for a pretty picture. It's a lucky camera, a lucky shot. I borrowed a camera from a truck driver, believe it or not, and if you look carefully, you can actually see fly rock. I was always amazed that I got this with some little Instamatic 35 millimeter. By the way, the driller for this blast, our first blast in ore, which was a very big deal for us, was an Inuk from Hopedale. And the master blaster was an Inuk from Mud Lake. That was a great day. At long last, the start of production. So how do we get there? Impacts and benefits agreements. We tried it and we liked it. VVNC negotiated agreements because it had to. It was a condition of construction starting on the project from the environmental assessment. We didn't do it because we willingly thought that we were going to enter into these and everything was going to be fine. We had been talking before But once the panel recommendations came out, we absolutely had to have them done and signed before the project could start. And that added new impetus as well. In retrospect, the IBAs were the best thing that happened to us. I'll tell you why. The IBAs embodied local consent and support. So when the IBAs were finalized, they were circulated amongst the Innu and the Inuit communities. Everybody 15 years and older voted on whether or not the project should proceed under these conditions. And each IBA is 175 pages long. So they spent a long time explaining it in their communities, and eventually a vote was held, and overwhelmingly people voted for the project to go ahead. They clearly laid out and legally enforced the parties' commitments, and they provided the backbone of the parties' developing relationship, but they were not responsible for the full development of that relationship. That was interpersonal. That was people getting to know each other. They set very high standards, but they also limited expectations to what had been negotiated. Everybody knew what we had to do, and everybody knew that what we didn't have to do. So agreeing on commitments and expectations is a healthy thing to do. You just have to make sure they're achievable. Setting goals and meeting them is a great foundation for a relationship between developers and stakeholders, and a great way to avoid disappointment. In some places, these can be less formal, less legally binding, but codifying, writing down your commitments is a very good idea. It sets expectations and drives mutual understanding. I won't go through these IBA topics. Most people are familiar with the kinds of things they are, but it's a broad range. And at the time when the IBAs in Voisey's Bay were negotiated, they were considered the leading representation of settling rights between developers and indigenous peoples in the world. The United Nations recognized them as such, and we were invited to go and talk at the UN about this particular reconciliation of rights and interests. So negotiating the IBAs was hard, but implementing them was harder. Our solution was to hand the agreements to the operations team and have them build all of the commitments into their SOPs. It's not a corporate function. We didn't hand it off to an office somewhere and say, you know, you guys got to look after that. We're going to go ahead and go mining. So we built it into purchasing. We built it into contracting. We built it into how the environment department ran. We built it into everything. Travis is sitting here. He knows this. And Perry is here somewhere too, and he knows this very well. They both worked at Voisey's Bay with me too many years ago to talk about. Anyway, the IBAs were given the same weight in our operation as was achieving production. We had to deliver on them. They were considered that important. And there's a counterpoint to that. I remember being at a conference, not too different than this one, but with 300 lawyers in the room. And I was talking again about Voisey's Bay. It was a long time ago. And somebody from Mining Watch Canada asked a question, and it wasn't really a question, it was a speech and it was an attack. And I was standing there and thinking to myself, well, I'm going to have to respond to that eventually. And there were two representatives of the Nunavut government desperately waving their hand, wanting to comment. I suggested that they should be given the mic, just to be polite. And they tore into the representative from Mining Watch Canada and said, how dare you think that we would abandon our responsibility to ensure the company does a good job, and that we would allow them not to do a good job. They're doing a very good job, and you guys should shut up and go home. And that's an interesting place to be if you're a mining executive when the indigenous group is standing up, tearing into the ENGO and telling them to shut up and go away. So I just sat down at that point. It all sounds good, but is it really good business? Is there a financial return? Because somebody in the corporate office is going to ask that question. Well, that sounds great, Tom, but how are we going to afford that? Well, yes. First off, as you've seen, not having local support, think back to the Innu fellow who's now, by the way, about 46 years old, and I know him, he's from the community across the river. I'm from Northwest River in Labrador. He's from Sheshchi, which is about 400 feet away. But at the time, he was part of 300 people who were stopping the project going ahead. And so, as you've seen, not having local support or even having local opposition can cost you years and millions of dollars. Inco bought the rights to go in the fall of 1996. We produced first ore in 2005. And when I joined the company, in the January of 97, the slogan around the office in St. John's was concentrate in 98. They had to wait 7 more years because they'd screwed up the relationship. Second, not being able to build the project you want to build is not the worst thing that can happen to you. At least you still have your money. Building it, paying for it, and then not being able to run it is worse. Lastly, if you do everything right, well, I'll show you 2 slides, 2 graphs only, I promise. So this is just a graph that I put together a long time ago. This is feasibility performance between 1980 and 2006. Big projects in the Western Hemisphere. There's a whole whack of them across the bottom there. That's the number of projects up the side, and that's how much they were under or over budget when they were finished. The smooth implementation of the IBAs at Voisey's Bay allowed us to focus on building the project, and it went better than many other projects. We were 5% over on a $1 billion project. That's not bad. And equally as important, if not more so, is the timing. The yellow line is the price of nickel at that time, and the blue columns were what we were expecting, when we were expecting to produce and how much, and the red columns is actually what we did. As you can see, we came in 6 months ahead of plan to start ore, producing concentrate. We managed to ship our first load of concentrate in 2005 instead of 2006. And we cut the nickel price spike, and we had significant concentrate going into the market. And so our project had been premised on $3.50 a pound for nickel. And at this time, the price went to $8, double what we had expected. And we had nickel concentrate to sell because we were in production, because things had gone so well, because we had fixed the relationship with indigenous people, and because we collectively had realized we'd made a terrible mistake in how we started off doing this project. By the way, what's not on the slide is that the price then went to $26 a pound. And I was the general manager at the time, and production was going so well that we filled our barn, which Travis and Perry will be well aware of. It's down at the edge of Qikiqtaaluk Bay where our ship loader is. We filled our barn, and I called the then president and said, I'm going to have to shut down production. Bear in mind now, nickel was $26 a pound. That's like gold today being $20,000 an ounce. And I was calling him up, said, yeah, we're going to shut down now. And he said, he's a good fella, Bob Cooper. And he says, really? And I went, yeah, the barn's full and we can't stack any more in without risk. And he went, okay. And I shut down. I couldn't believe the conversation went that easily. Anyway, but what about the stakeholders? So that's just talking about the mining company and getting to do and having a payoff and finding that it actually works financially. So the Voisey's Bay project has driven long-term high-wage employment in rural areas. I'm from a town of 537 people, if nobody died last night, and that's about as rural as you get. Almost. The coast of Labrador is more rural, but these communities have survived because of the number of people who leave there and work at the site at Voisey's Bay. The Innu and the Innu collectives, the municipal and provincial and federal revenue streams are extraordinary. I remember when I'm doing iron ore now. When nickel was $26 a pound, that year we paid more in taxes to the province of Newfoundland and Labrador than all the other mining companies and all the oil companies combined. That's how much wealth was being generated. And of course, it was great for the mining company. That's why Vale bought Voisey's Bay. It's one of the reasons they bought Inco. But it was also good for us. It's good for us as citizens, good for the province. There were trust funds established. There are funds for other culturally desirable but economically infeasible activities that groups wanted to undertake. They could take the revenue stream that was coming from us, and they could pay for other projects that they would not have been able to afford. It doesn't matter if it's on the land programs for kids, or if it's language retention, or if it's elders being able to travel and do things. All those things, that revenue stream was there because of a mining company, going to people who would never work at the mine and wanted nothing to do with it, perhaps. but still we're enjoying the benefits from it. Lots of funds for organization, the preservation of communities and lifestyles. Just try to stick on this again. My cohort from my hometown, I can't tell you how many of them work at Voisey's Bay. And they've been working there for 20 years. And they've all got good boats. They've all got good skidoos. They all got the best gear. They all got a good cabin. They've all got comfortable homes. They've all raised their kids successfully. They've all got stable lives. And they go away for 6 months of the year. And yeah, that's hard. But they're home for 6 months of the year. And they go to spend their time in their cabin. They follow their traditional lifestyle, whatever that might be. And these projects are what allow for that. What else? Education. The weird things that happen. We became the first adult basic education private site in the province. And we hired a literacy trainer at the, you remember, don't you, Travis? we hired a literacy trainer to work at the site who was literally teaching people to read and write, who couldn't, but was also invigilating university exams for people who wanted to do courses. And whether they were related to what we were doing or not, it was just another way of serving the interests of our employees, but also potentially them then serving our interests by bringing those skills to bear. Sending financial planners into employees' homes so they didn't just talk to the employee who was at site, but they talked to the spouse who was at home, and planning for retirement, because a lot of people hadn't been in wage industries before. Go-to-school programs. We started off with stay-in-school programs, and people say, oh, I don't need a stay-in-school program. We need a go-to-school program because nobody comes, or not enough people come. All kinds of, I could run on about these at some length, but I don't intend to. It's just that one of the things that happened was we also created this enormous constellation of businesses around the project. And when we started up construction, it turned out that we awarded all of our contracts, all of our major contracts and most of the minor ones, to indigenous joint ventures, every one. And when we started up operations, over 60% of our workforce was either Innu or Inuit, which was unheard of. The next closest thing to that was a mine in northern Quebec, and they had 18% and thought they were doing great. If you put the effort in, if you make it part of your business, you can actually achieve this. And just before I finish up in a couple more slides, I just want to say there was some unforeseen. There are always unforeseen benefits that despite how hard you, the mining company, or the stakeholders think about it, you will not think these up. We didn't. Nobody else did. There's a huge rate of type 2 diabetes in Labrador and elsewhere too. But in Labrador, we have a lot of type 2 diabetes. In order to work at a remote site, you have to pass medical. In order to be able to keep working at the site, you have to stay healthy. In order to stay healthy, if you're a diabetic, you have to have your blood sugar level under control. To keep your blood sugar level under control, you have to avoid alcohol, you have to avoid unhealthy food, and you have to sleep properly, and you have to get exercise. And all of a sudden, we got feedback from the diabetes team in Labrador. You know, you're affecting the diabetes, the state of health of diabetics, because people want to work at your site, and we're not going to let them go to a remote site that they might not be able to fly out of if they have a diabetic crisis, unless they're fit. And so all of a sudden, we're seeing this kind of an impact. We had never thought of that, and neither had anybody else. Better, safer equipment at home. Everybody can now buy, everybody who worked there or had a relative who worked there was winding up using really good equipment, really safe equipment to be able to use at home. And they were also learning some other things. I'll come to that in a moment. We had instances of domestic violence reduction because all of a sudden we had 20% of our workforce was female. The national average was 8%, and we had 20% there, and we had people who had never had any power before, any economic power before, who were from small communities and who had no choice but to stay in those small communities. There was nowhere for them to go. And all of a sudden they had their own money and they had their own power and they could make choices that they hadn't been able to make before. That was pretty unexpected, but incredibly rewarding and to hear it. Just this week, for the Baffinland project, the air charter company has had to purchase a new aircraft. And we fly 737s into that airship that I was talking to you about. They've had to buy a bigger one, a 737-800, a new one. And there are 67 empty seats on that aircraft every time it flies up to Qikiqtaaluk from Montreal. they're going to sell those seats off. Right now, to get from Iqaluit to Montreal is $1,600 one way. They're going to sell them off for $699, $700. So if you're in Iqaluit and you want to go shopping, or you have to go south for health, or if you want to go to a hockey game or whatever it is, if you have the money to go, you can now go for $700 rather than $1,600. Not the intention of the mining company, not the intention of the air company when they got into business with us and got our charter, but it's just a sideswipe, it's a spin-off, it's an unexpected benefit. Those are the things that add to the value of these projects. So, commonalities, last slide. Place great value on the local relationships. Consider them as critical to your success as who you hire, what equipment you buy, what financing you can raise. Believe that it's possible that one day these relationships will be what make or break your business, and act accordingly. Stakeholders have a right to expect that exploration or mining will be beneficial to their constituencies, but they also must act and do their part to make sure that the businesses are successful. Otherwise, there's nothing to share in. The key to long-standing success is to make it mutual. Find a way to build that model. That's the model we built in Labrador. We didn't do it at first. We weren't very smart about it, but we got there in the end. So I'll say it again. Central Newfoundland is not Labrador back then, but there are commonalities. Things are going to change here as they did there. There will be opportunities for explorers, developers, and the people who have been here for much, much longer. Those opportunities will probably turn out differently than you think they're going to at the moment. That was true in Labrador, and it's probably equally true here. The Voisey's Bay project advanced land claims. A mining company advancing land claims. That hadn't been in the plan. We affected everything from diabetes to literacy, and has lasted far longer than was originally planned. That 7-year plan, that went out the window. It's been operating for 20 years now, and it's just gone underground. So who knows from there how much longer it's going to last. The project, I think, is arguably the most successful mega project that's ever happened in the province. And I'm happy to argue that point with anybody, just in terms of its execution and what it's meant for people in the long term. Mutual cooperation and respect was the key to that, and bear that in mind, if you will, and I wish you all the best.
That was awesome. Awesome. Tom Paddon, come on. Baffinland. That's an amazing, insightful conversation, and I didn't know a lot of that, but what a beautiful lesson that I think everybody here in industry can learn from. The mutual respect, working together, learning from your mistakes. I think we learned a lot right there. It's pretty amazing. And I would, again, I'm just going to throw this out. If you got any gigs where you can come to Baver Peninsula, maybe set up a mine right by the hospital, we need a couple doctors. That's all I'm saying. Guys, what a good lunch. How are we feeling? Time to get up and go walk around. It's been an honor to be here. I'm really excited to have been a part of this. Great to meet a lot of you. I'll be hanging around. I can say hi to some more people. I want to invite you to Burlington this summer. I'm going to be back with all the youngsters. I'm going to have my Zodiac in the water. I'll take you out and boat. And also, I have my glamping business there. I would love for you to come. Oh, yes, right on. I will get that for sure. After I do my commercial for my own business. No, but go check out homesweethome.com and you please come. But yes, Mr. Paddon, we got a little present for you. I forgot all about it. Oh, it's iron ore.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
I got it. Okay, I got
You
it.
should know what it is.
No, I don't.
Picture. He stood up. You gotta. So yes, that is it. I don't know what else you have. You guys got more meetings today? You don't stop. Okay, well go on. Get. Thanks everybody.